Hello. Oh man, it's super hot in here. It's summer, it's New York, it's super humid. So if I'm sweaty, please excuse me. Anyway, I asked you guys on Instagram if you have any questions about my 21 Rules in 3 Weeks project, and you guys had a lot of questions. So this video is to address those questions and explain a little bit of what was happening in the back of this project. Now there's a bunch of questions. I'm gonna try to go through them as fast as possible and as accurate as possible, but please bear in mind there's a lot to talk about. How do you decide to shoot with ISO 3200 film, and did you shoot at box speed or did you push or pull it? This is the most common question I got by far. Why was I using Tmax 3200? Well, the reason is I found a very good deal on, there was a magazine company here in New York and they were selling a bunch of Tmax 3200. When I was in Chile, I purchased, I guess, 5 rolls of it, and the results were not nice. And then I shot 2 of those in Chile, and then I brought them to Europe with me, and I shot 1 in London, and I didn't like the result. Like, it was too grainy for me. I didn't like it. I didn't understand the hype of the film. And when I saw this offer, which was really cheap, I could buy like a big bulk of it, I decided, okay, maybe I just don't know the film. Maybe I need to actually shoot a lot of the film to understand how it works and what's so good about it, because it's a classic film. It's one of the films that you need to learn how to use. So I said, okay, I'm just gonna learn how to use it. That's the reason why I used that one. I pulled the film. I started shooting at 800 ASA, and then I quickly discovered that at 800 ASA I had to slow down a little bit too much when I was shooting people that weren't super white, because like New York is super mixed race, so that's amazing. And if for 800 you could take pictures of like really white people under the sun at, I don't know, f8, depending on the clouds, but like black people or brown people or whatever other color that is not completely white, there was a tendency to underexpose. So what I did was I started pulling the film to 500. So between 500 and 400, depending on the day, depending on how I felt it was better. The last rolls are all shot at 500. So to me, 500 with the Tmax 3200, 500 is the sweet spot for this film. It gives a really nice tonality. The whites are not completely destroyed. The blacks are soft. There's grain for sure because it's a grainy film, but it's not an obtrusive grain that I feel I get when I shoot this film at 1600 or 2200, 3200. Like, that's too much grain. I don't like it. I like the soft grain of the Tmax 3200 at 500 ASA. I think that's for me personally, that's the best moment for the film. What do you do when you don't want to shoot? When I don't want to shoot, I just go out and shoot anyway. That's the only way of making these projects, because when you set yourself upon a goal of making a project in X amount of days or X amount of time, there's not much you can do except doing the thing that you need to do. Like, do your job. Don't complain, or complain, but you have to know that no matter how much you complain, the thing is going to be the same. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to go out and shoot that amount of film. That's what I did. When you don't want to go out and shoot, you just go out and shoot anyway. Do you use black and white filters like yellow, orange, or red? Yes or no? Why? I don't use them. I've never used them. I should start using them. There's always something new to learn, guys. That's something that I have to deal with in this photography journey that I've set myself into. I have never used filters except the filters for tungsten correction. That's the only filter I ever use, and like some UV filters once in a while, but I've never used red, green, or blue filters. I'm gonna have to shoot an episode with filters. I'm gonna have to get filters and give them a try and see what's up with that thing. I've never done it, so I don't know. What you did to very new ideas when doing massive number of photos? I don't come up with ideas for photos. Taking pictures in the street is not like going out and having an image of, oh, I want to capture this and then just capture that. It doesn't work that way. Like, usually for me, what happens is I'm open to the experience, and then if something interesting happens, I just go and grab that. But it's more like picking up, truffles or picking up strawberries. It has to do with that delicacy of going and finding something and keeping it to yourself. Do you feel like you will have approached the project differently or in a context of travel or similar? Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that it's really important. I wanted to make this project here in New York because I'm living here and I didn't feel comfortable shooting in this city. It was a weird situation for me. When you travel, when you're like traveling or taking pictures of your journeys, and when I was in Japan or whatever, it's a nice experience, but you take the pictures that a tourist will take, and that's fine. Like, you're a tourist, that's your reality, but I'm not a tourist in here. So I didn't want to make a project and shoot pictures that a tourist will take. I wanted to shoot the images that somebody who lives here will take. That was my goal. How much of the PhD work did you get done during this? Offloading my own guilt. I did 0 advance on my PhD, but that was something that I decided to do. I decided to just give 1 month to this project, commit to this project, and just get off with it. That was my goal. So that's why it took a whole month to make it happen. Do you feel like you needed to angle the camera down with the 28 so you didn't get too much headroom? I felt like I had to learn how to tilt the camera properly. Sometimes I was taking images from my chest upwards, and I was like trying to make people feel bigger. Sometimes I was taking pictures from a little bit above my head, so I was trying to make them smaller. But the wide angle changes the perspective you have, so it's not so much about headroom, it's more about like in which position I want to compose the whole image. How did you come up with the idea initially? Wasn't photography for fun? I mean, photography is for fun for me. It's a hobby, but at the same time, there's a point in your hobby in which just doing things for fun does not equate to doing things in a mediocre way. Because if you're doing things just for fun, it depends how you conceptualize fun. Okay, this might be boring, but if you think about fun as only enjoying the element that you're doing or the craft that you're building or whatever it is that you're doing for fun, if fun means enjoyment and it's like interchangeable, then I don't think I'm doing photography for fun. Like for me, fun has to do also with the challenges that come with fun. Like I learned how to play an instrument for fun, but learning how to play an instrument is hard. Like your fingers are not accustomed to it. I'm trying to learn how to play piano, the basics, and my hands hurt and it's hard and I can't remember, the scales and it's a mess. It's a hot mess and it's not enjoyable. It's enjoyable when it works. Like I can play a little melody, like oh yeah, now I enjoy it. It's the same for me in photography. I enjoy when the project's over, when I look at the pictures, when I grab a moment and I'm like, yeah, that worked, that moment really worked. But all the rest of it, like the whole production of it, the whole conceptualizing of it, the whole getting up, going out, shooting, coming back, developing, questioning myself, am I doing this correctly? Is this leading where I think it should lead? Am I playing this thing as it should be played? Am I being part of the scene? Am I doing the right thing? And the right thing has to do with your own aesthetics, your own impressions, your own ethics. So I'm constantly trying to learn and relearn how to do things. So that's fun for me. I love learning. Therefore, photography is for fun. But for me, fun is not the same as enjoyment. Fun comes with the enjoyment of the end element, of the crafted images. When the image is crafted, when the experience ends, I can retroactively think about it as, oh, that was fun. It's fun because it's created, or I enjoy the thing that I created. But the whole process doesn't need to be enjoyable. The process can be really torturous, but if I enjoyed the end product, I think it was fun. It was worth it. More than fun, I think it's worth it. Why sticking around Times Square when it's such a tourist trap? That's a great question. I started taking pictures in Times Square for the same reason I started taking pictures in this project the first time. I wasn't feeling comfortable taking pictures in New York City at all. I was uncomfortable taking pictures. I don't know how to approach people. I didn't know how big the personal space of the people is in here. How can you invade or not that personal space? There's a lot of things that have to do with navigating the people around your city. Every city is different. Everybody's different, of course. But there's like a more or less general vibe of not of people, but of kinds of people that you can find in a certain city. I don't feel like a tourist, and I'm technically not one, but I feel like I'm still not a New Yorker by any stretch of the imagination. So Not yet. So what I did was I was trying to connect with the tourist because that's like playing in easy. And then once I get accustomed to a tourist, I could drift off and start taking pictures of proper New Yorkers in other places of the city. So that's what I did. Is it a tourist trap? Yeah. Maybe it's not the best place to start, but it was the place where I could start. So I don't go around setting standards for everybody. This is my standard. This is how I started. If you feel comfortable shooting people in New York immediately, you want to just go out and experience that, I mean, be my guest, that's awesome, but it wasn't my situation. So I need to play with the rules that I can actually play with. And one of the rules was, I don't know how to feel about this. I'm gonna go out and take pictures of tourists, and then I'll try to make something out of it. How was the experience compared to a 30 rolls in 30 days? It was pretty much the same. These kinds of projects are really tiring. I think I had a worse time with this. It was less enjoyable because it was longer. The 30 rolls in 30 days, I was just shooting for about an hour or 2 hours a day. This was like 5 or 6 hours because it's more pictures. Instead of 12, it's 36 or 38. So that's a long ass amount of pictures that I need to shoot. And it was really taxing on my mental health and my physical health because I was working and walking all day. It was tiring. Also, are you going to produce a scene with this project? Yes, but not yet. I'm working on another scene that's going to be released pretty soon. But yes, there will be. I'll make a selection of my favorite images of this project, and then I'll make a scene about it. I hope you like it. Do you feel like you accomplished the goal that you set? Yes, I do feel that. I feel that for sure. My goals were, I had various goals going into this. One, shooting better with my 28 Summicron. I like learning how to use the lens for realsies. Second, becoming more comfortable shooting in New York. And third, getting into the vibe of street photography, because I haven't done street photography for real ever. Like when I was in Chile, I was taking more street photography. I was going out and taking pictures and whatnot. But since I moved, I haven't really done real street photography, like going out and take pictures day after day, crafting images, getting better, and just, it's like going to the gym of photography every single day. I haven't done that before. So I set myself the goal of experiencing that with all its complexities and experiencing how it feels like to craft better images and be proud of myself. And I think there are certain images that I'm super proud that I took, and I would have never taken them otherwise because I had to be there at that precise time, and I had to put the effort into, getting into the vibe, knowing the camera, knowing the tools, knowing the film stock, like all of that combined produced certain images that I'm super proud of. So yeah, I think I accomplished the goals that I set up on myself. My friend Guille says, if a picture was hard to take, do you tend to overvalue it? Sometimes, but I also feel like the act of valuing something more than something else just because it was hard, I tend to feel that only for myself, but once it reaches the realm of the public, like the public domain of the things that you create and everybody else can see, I don't value them in that area differently. Like in the area of the public domain of objects, I value things that I think are more aesthetically or conceptually interesting. But on the realm of the personal experience, where certain things are way more difficult than others, even though the outcome doesn't feel like it's more worth it, I certainly, for my personal own feelings, I value certain images better than others. But in reality, it doesn't really matter. Do you think this would have been more enjoyable for you if you had a partner shooting with you? No, actually no. I mean, at moments, yes. There were some moments in which I met other photographers and we chat for a while and we walk a few blocks and then we split parts, and that was a nice refreshing feeling, because you're like having an experience of talking with somebody and then you come up with something, it's funny, and then you find an image and you capture it. But just taking pictures in the street requires so much attention, and my attention has to be expanded all the time looking for something interesting. And interesting can be a subject that looks cool, a connection between patterns that might come up in a nice way in an image, a certain light that falls in a certain way, the way in which a situation unfolds and I might be able to capture it and it doesn't feel alien. All of the realm of possibilities is too big. So if on top of that you add talking with somebody else and coming up with ideas. And I would be speaking in English, so there's like another process, because as you know, my mother tongue is Spanish, so it's easier for me to just not think about and just speak in Spanish. But if I have to speak in English, there are certain moments in the chain of thought connections that occur that will be like, oh man, what was the word for that? And while I'm thinking about that, I'm completely forgetting about what I'm doing, which is taking pictures of interesting things on the street. So yeah, no, it was much better to be alone. It's good to have company at certain moments, but it's good to be alone. What is the most fulfilling part of your personal development by doing this project? I think learning how to use a camera properly is always a nice thing. When I shot the 30 rolls in 30 days project, I felt like I learned how to use a TLR, and I gained my badge of honor with the Mamiya C330. That was like my thing. Like, I know how to operate this camera. No matter what you say or do, I really know how to use this camera. I haven't shot 300 rolls with that camera, but I know how to operate it quickly. I can take an image super fast. I like it probably faster than a lot of autofocus systems nowadays. I was super fast. And with this project, it was more or less the same. I was able to capture moments that just a few weeks before, or even like a month before, it was impossible for me to capture. It was too complex. I needed to be too quick, and I was not accustomed to that. But at one point, I was able to just see something and just move the aperture of the lens and just like clock the camera and just take the image immediately. It was like an innate movement that I got because I shot too much. So I felt proud of myself because of that reason. That was good. And I think that was the most fulfilling part. Being able to take images that I would have otherwise not been able to do. Like, realizing that I was learning new tools and learning new skills, that's an amazing thing. Because I love learning, as I said. That's fun for me. Has anything developed in the way you relate to your subjects, either positively or negatively? Develop as in things have changed? Yes. I feel like now I am more careful when I approach people, and I change my demeanor. Because before I was like a little bit too timid when I was approaching, and now I'm like, hey, that's great, can I take a picture? There's like a certain activity that I have to push when I approach people. In reality, in normal life, I'm a little bit more shy. Or not shy, but you know me. This is how I am. I don't think you will consider me like a guy who gets into a room and is like, yeah, blam. That's just not me. I'm more chill. I'm a chill person. So approaching somebody and say, hey, can I take a picture of you? The way in which I usually used to do it was like, hey, I'm sorry, sorry to bother you. Now it's like, hey, that you look super cool. Can I take a picture? That's really nice. There's like another energy to that, and I think that change. That's a positive change. And a negative change, some people were not friendly, but that also becomes something positive for myself, because some people were really not nice. Like, I took a picture of somebody and the guy was like, what are you doing? And trying to smack my camera, and that became really violent. But at the same time, I didn't care. Like, doesn't matter. And I just keep walking, and that just blew off my mind, and I just kept taking pictures. And if that would have happened to me while I was taking images like randomly and not in a project like this where I needed to produce, if I would have been taking pictures just as a hobby and that would have happened, that would have been really bad. I would have thought about that moment for days, like, oh, what did I do wrong? Maybe that person felt insulted. Maybe that was not the right thing to do. I should have apologized for taking images in a public space, which is not illegal, but anyway. But now it's like, I don't care. I have stuff to do. I have things to do. I have places to go. I have a role to complete. Just, if you don't like it, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna post your image. That's it. And that's it. It's not that complicated. I think that's a positive thing. Aside from your technical ability development, how do you feel your creative style changed? That's a really cool question. Do you feel your creative style changed? If by creative style you mean like the kinds of images I can craft, and we would call that style, like my movement through the crafting of those images will be my style. I think that didn't dramatically change, but it changed in regards of trying to approach people in different ways, and trying to find situations that I would otherwise not find because I wasn't there. So What changed in reality was just the act of me being there, which sounds silly, but it's way more important than you might think. Like, just the act of being there taking pictures makes a world of difference between getting the shot and not getting the shot. And that cannot be overstated at any given time. That's super important. And I think that the act of going out and taking pictures constantly produces certain images and shapes your creativity towards finding new images all the time. So now I think I'm faster on finding an interesting image when I'm outside, or like the angle, the point of view where I should put the camera to make the scene convey what I think the scene will look better. So yeah, I think it's technical anyway, but yeah, it's technical, and the creative style has to be technical for me. Like, the creative style doesn't come from the fairies or the inspiration. It comes from technical elements put in place and set in motion through your reason. Would you do it again for yourself with intended backlog to have a different point of view? Would I do another project like this? I don't know. I really don't know. Right now, no. Because I have so much stuff to do. And I think I did it because I had this vacations from the PhD, and I could take a month to do this. But I don't think I'll spend another whole month doing something like this. It's just too tiring, and I don't feel the need to do it, which is the most important thing. I don't feel the need to go out and grab a camera for a whole month and shoot a bunch of rolls because I really need to get better with that particular camera. I think I fulfilled that with the Leica M3 and the Summicron 28. So right now I don't need it, but if I ever need it, there's a chance that might happen. But not right now, not at this moment. Did you try more nighttime shooting? What time was the day was most interesting? I was shooting mostly from I was shooting all day, but usually from the morning, like not morning, but 11 to 5 or 12 to 6 and a half, around that. That was like my timetable. I took no nighttime photographies because I wanted to shoot at ISO 500, so that's not really nighttime photography. And I think some kind of nighttime photography will be another whole project. This was like streets, daylight, wide angle, black and white. That was the thing. Those were the borders. At one point I might do some nighttime photography. That'll be interesting. Did you use Sunny 16, or what kind of method did you use for metering with the M3? Did I use Sunny 16? Sometimes when I didn't feel like taking out my phone, or when I already measured the scene and the scene changed a little bit, I would just calculate by eye. I'm quite good at guessing the exposure, so I don't really use Sunny 16. I use my eyes and feel like, oh, this might be, f 5.6 at 125 of a second and ISO 400, and I take the image. Like, that's usually how it works. Then I double check with light meter, but usually if I use the same film for a long time and the same settings for a long period of time, like a month in this case, then you can just come up with the exposure really quickly, because you've been doing it for 6 hours a day for a month. It will be terrible if you can't do it by memory. So at the end, yeah, I didn't need Sunny 16, I was just doing it. What was the worst day and why? Oh man, there was a day in which it started raining. I went out to... It was raining, and I thought, I have never captured Times Square with rain. I know, Times Square, it's so terrible. But I went there, I wanted to capture tourists and people with umbrellas and like a high concentration of tourists. My goal was Times Square and Penn Station, and I was gonna walk from one to the other and see the people with the umbrellas and going around. And I couldn't do it because it was raining so much that I got soaked. Like all my shoes were soaking, my t-shirt was soaking. I had an umbrella here, so I would keep my camera safe, but man, I got soaked. The images that I captured that particular day were not interesting at all. They were pretty crappy pictures. I've never taken pictures while it's raining on the street, so everything was new to me, everything was uncomfortable, and I felt terrible, and I hated every second of it. And I came back home and I had to work and do other things. It was a really bad day. I didn't enjoy that. Do you think people should have the same experience as you do? No, why? Hey Ed, what did you do to celebrate or finish this project? I had a bottle of wine with my wife. That's what I did. We finished, we had a nice dinner, and we celebrated with a nice bottle of wine, and that was it. It's the most Chilean thing I've ever said on this channel. What do you do to celebrate? I drink wine. But yeah, you know, that's how Chileans party, I guess. What was the most difficult part to shoot street? Getting attuned to the sensibility of shooting people with different backgrounds. Certain people do not like to get photographed. They don't appreciate it, they don't want it, especially not by you, that you're not part of their group, so they don't want you there taking pictures of them because they're not a spectacle. Knowing when you can do it and when you can't do it, that was a really difficult thing, and it was really challenging for me to understand when was I able to do it and when should I just stop. Which photograph were you most satisfied or proud of capturing during the project? One of them is the girl with the smoke on her face. I love that one. It's one of my favorites. There's another one by the two guys kissing in Times Square. I love that one. It was such a random moment. I was walking and then they just did it for themselves, and I captured the image like it was so fast. I was walking and then they just moved, and I did this and kept walking, and that movement was just like one tiniest fraction of a second, and it worked, and I was so happy. I captured it and I was like, okay, if this works, this might be my best shot. And it was, I think that's one of my best shots. There are many moments in which I was really happy of capturing, but I think those two stand out especially. Did you get tempted to change something up along the way? I changed the ISO settings. I was shooting at 800 and then I changed to 500. How many shots in a roll of 36 exposures do you usually feel good about? Does it go up with time? It depends. In some rolls I have like 5 keepers, and in other rolls I might have 30 keepers. It depends, but it goes up with time, definitely. It goes up with practice. Like the first rolls that I was taking, I was happy with like, I don't know, 3 images, 5 images tops from the roll. And then the last rolls I was happy with 10 or 15 every roll. If it was a really good roll, maybe 20 were like, okay, these are good images. But it depends. It depends on where you are, how lucky you were that day, because there's a certain element of luck which is not small. There's a lot of luck involved, and you have to learn how to play with that luck. Some days you're just not lucky, nothing happens really, and you just wasted 6 hours. Some days a lot of things happen and you can't keep up, and you lose frames that would otherwise be amazing frames, but you can't shoot everything. So it depends. Do you feel judged by strangers when you shoot street? It doesn't really bother me. I think not judged, but like judge is not the right word in my end. It would be I feel observed. I feel like people observe me when I'm taking pictures. And it's not that special. Like when I was walking around the city and I was meeting street photographers along the way, and we were like, yeah, nodding and just going each to our own. So it's not uncommon. I'm not that special. So it's just the thing that I do, and since it's not that uncommon, I feel like people observe me because they don't want to feel like, oh, this guy's gonna take a picture of me and I don't want it. So when I get that vibe, I just don't do it. I don't take a picture of somebody who might feel uncomfortable. Why would I do that? I want to take pictures of people who feel comfortable and are happy and they look good, I don't want to make a commentary about, oh, this guy looks weird, let's take an image because he looks weird. Like I'm not into that at all. I feel like taking pictures is giving compliments, and that should be the main goal. Dealing with the emotions of self-doubt that come to the surface when doing street. Self-observation is helpful. Self-doubt is not as helpful. It's part of the process, and it was part of me. It was part of my process to overcome that self-doubt. But more than self-doubt, it was also like doubting the project, doubting the reasons of why I was doing it. Why am I wasting my time doing this? That was the doubt that I was feeling. And it's a fair doubt, to be honest. Why are you shooting this project? Why are you spending a whole month doing this? But if you know the reasons, and the reasons are powerful enough for you to spend money on film, spend money on developers, like spend hours on the street, if you know your reasons and you think those are good reasons, then doubting your reasons doesn't help, and doubting yourself while doing it doesn't help. But it certainly is part of the process. It was a huge part of the process for me. Just one more thing before I leave you all, and this recap of the whole photography process for the 21 rolls in 3 weeks ends. I think this project was really intense for me. It was a time where I could spend this amount of time doing this project. I think it's important to differentiate between having fun and doing what you need to do in order to get better at your craft. And I think this project helped me to get better, and that was it. That was my goal. I wanted to get better at shooting street photography. I wanted to get better at reading people in New York and knowing how to approach and when to approach and when not to approach. And I think this project did it for me. So that was amazing. That was really good, and I'm so happy I did it. It was a blessing. It was horrible at times. I didn't enjoy it a lot of the times. Most of the time, I was not having fun. But I think not having fun and enduring the process, the creative process being a tortuous process, a not enjoyable process, a process that you feel like you're swimming through a river that is too thick and it's uncomfortable and it itches and it's like it hurts. It's a tortuous process, but at the end, to me, the whole thing is worth it, because I look back and I'm like, those images are really nice, and I'm proud of most of those images. Not all of them, of course, but there's a lot of images that I'm super proud of in that project, and I'm happy that I was able to do it. So my recommendation, I mean, you don't need to shoot 30 rolls or 20 rolls. You can shoot 10. But I think the only way to get better at something is to do it consistently. If you go out and you take one roll a month, or I don't know, if you really want to get better at something, probably one roll a week will not be enough. So you need to organize your time to get better. So in this project, I wanted to get better at using the lens and composing a wide angle and approaching people. So those were the particular elements that I wanted to get better. And I wanted to know Tmax 3200 because I had no idea how it worked. I didn't like it when I tried it, but it's because I didn't really know the film. So that's another thing. Try not to shut yourself to opportunities just because you tried it once and you're like, nah, it's not my thing. Well, you don't know. Maybe there's a whole world that you have not discovered. And if you stay open to that world, you may discover new things that are as important or even more important than the things that you give for granted. You take for granted. Yeah. Go out, make a project, do your best, and improve. See what you need to get better at. Make it really specific. I need to get better at this thing, or I want to learn how to use this thing, and just go for it. Go for it, do your best, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna learn a lot in the process. And you probably will not have fun. You'll probably hate every minute of it, but at the same time, you don't need to have fun the whole time. The world is pretty comfortable for us, I would say. I mean, you gotta be an adult, go to work, pay taxes and stuff. But I mean, if you have the time and the possibilities to go out and shoot a film camera, it's because you have the luxury of living in a good standard of life, or at least a standard of life that allows you to have fun using cameras and enjoy that, make use of that. Be happy with what you have, like value your reality. And try to capture your reality too. Your reality might teach you one or two things about yourself and how you stay in relation to that reality. You might find that you are a more patient person than you thought, or you're more fixated on details than you thought, or you're a good person to talk to other strangers, and you discover yourself, hey man, I actually enjoy talking to people that I don't know. I had no idea about this. That I had no idea this was a property of myself. You might discover new stuff about yourself with this hobby. So go out, shoot, learn, and have fun. Thank you so much for traveling with me through all this whole journey. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope your answers were answered, your questions were answered, and that's it. I'll see you next week. Probably, or the subsequent week. I'll try to upload next week, for sure. I'll do my best, but I can't promise, but I'll do my best. Okay, I'll see you pretty soon. Take care. Love you all. Thank you so much to my patrons. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you pretty soon. Bye.